Welcome back to another segment here on Gems Podcast. With me today is Danny Carroll, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who Danny is, and we're going to dive into a fun-filled conversation. So if you're like me, make sure you grab a pen and a piece of paper to take some notes because you're definitely going to want to capture these gems. So Danny Carroll has spent the last 20 years searching and testing better solutions to health challenges and has spent the last decade helping people with chronic, terminally ill conditions to fully recover their health. Danny is an international best-selling and award-winning author. His first book, titled Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis, won multiple bestseller awards on Amazon and won the 2023 Global Book Awards in the category of medical books. In 2012, Danny experienced unconscious spontaneous healing when the knots that had riddled his body for a 6-month period magically disappeared overnight. Danny has spent the last 13 years studying and testing spontaneous healing and launched a course titled The Bioswitch to teach how to consciously trigger spontaneous cathartic healing and switch off chronic disease like a light switch. So without further ado, let's welcome the man behind it all, a legend, Danny Carroll.
Thank you, Genesis. It's very good to be here. Thanks for such a wonderful introduction.
My pleasure, Danny. And I always like to connect you with the audience. So I want to give you a chance to share a little bit more personally and professionally before we dive into the meat and potatoes. So,
Mm.
are you interested in either a rapid fire 10 question game or an icebreaker?
Let's go for rapid fire just for fun.
Okie dokie, y'all. You know how we do it. We're playing rapid fire with Danny and Genesis. Do 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 do. Question numero uno. Danny, what's one word to describe you?
Tenacious.
Question two. Danny, where are you originally from, and do you speak any other languages?
I'm half English and half Irish. I speak a very bad amount of Hindi, which is one of the leading languages in India, which is where I live.
Nice. Question
Mm.
three. If you had the chance to recreate any incident in your life, would you?
I would have got on the journey I'm on a lot younger than I did.
Okay.
Yes. I wish I had discovered what I know now 50 years ago. But anyway,
So, question four. Do you have a role model or a mentor?
I have two role models. One is a genius German medical doctor, Dr. Richard Geert Hummer, who essentially unraveled the biological code. And the second is a fine Irishman called Dr. Joseph Murphy, who authored a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Both
Okay.
amazing.
Ooh, guys, we're gonna have to dive into this in the meat and potatoes.
Mm,
Question five. What's your
mm.
favorite color?
Pink.
Okay. Question six. If you could trade places with anyone, would you trade places or remain yourself?
I remain myself.
Okay. Question seven. If money was no object, where would you be headed in the world?
Mm, right where I am now, just a lot faster.
So India, right?
I live in India, yeah.
Okay. Question eight. So in life, we all get chances. Some chances we take and others we do not. What is one chance that you took that helped you on your journey?
Um, well, I was expelled from school for beating up my English teacher. Um, and I was rescued by a fine lecturer who lied about my qualifications. to get me back into the education system. That was probably the most transformative experience I went through at a young age, I think.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
Question 9. Where is your current happy place?
Oh, in Bombay. I have a
Okay.
beautiful uh, sea-facing penthouse apartment in Bombay that I've had for the last 12 years, and it is my very happy space.
I love
Amazing.
that. So
I love it.
Bombay, India, y'all, a penthouse is his very happy place. And
Oh,
oh man, and question 10, and this is a kicker, so listen now. So these are the rules for question 10. It is the pass or play question. If you pass, our roles are reversed and you ask me any question. If you play, I ask one last question to wrap up rapid fire. So are you passing or playing?
in everything I do in life, Genesis, I always play.
Okie dokie. So you just won the lottery. Cha-ching, cha-ching. However, to get your proceeds released, you must donate to 3 charities of your choice. What charities are you contributing to, Danny?
Um, a number actually. I educate street children in Bombay, children that live in the slums. Um, I educate. I donate to street dogs. I'm a dog lover. Um, and for many years, I donated to cancer causes until I found out it was a complete scam.
Oh wow. Okay. We're gonna dive into that. So those are really great causes, and that also shows who Danny is personally and professionally. So I hope you enjoyed playing Rapid Fire. Now I want to really dive into what you're doing now, Danny. I want to talk about this book that you wrote. So let's start with the book. So I want you to hold up the book for those who are on camera so they can see a copy of the book. Terminal cancer is a misdiagnosis. So I want to start with cancer because cancer right now, that's something near and dear to my heart after losing several family members to cancer and one very recently. So why do you feel like terminal cancer is a misdiagnosis?
So, the German doctor, Dr. Richard Geert Hummer, that I mentioned, essentially spent 39 years. He was a cancer research specialist. Um, he was diagnosed with his son, his 19-year-old son, was shot and murdered in 1978, and 2 months later, he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of testicular cancer. Now, at the time, because he was a traditionally trained medical doctor, he didn't know if there was any causal link between his son's death and him getting cancer on a reproductive organ. But he felt that it couldn't be a coincidence that he lost a son and then he gets an aggressive cancer on a reproductive organ 2 months later. Wind forward, working with over 50,000 cancer patients over a 39-year period, basically he concluded that the cancer that he got on his testicle was part of a survival biological program, and that cancer is in fact not a disease at all. So if you look at the way cancer basically works, is his son was shot and murdered. He got a aggressive tumor, what they said, on his testicle, and what he discovered, Genesis, is that that tumor on his testicle was functional tissue, and it had a biological purpose and a biological function. And that was basically to increase his testosterone and sperm levels so that he had a better chance of getting his wife pregnant so that he could replace the child he just lost. Now, when he understood the fundamentals behind that mechanism, he essentially unraveled the biological code, identified the life event that triggers every type of cancer, what the biological purpose of that cancer is. And easy way to understand this, Genesis, is that let's say you're driving your car along the road and you see a danger ahead of you, right? You have two choices, right? You can either put your foot on the accelerator and go faster to try and pass the danger, or you can put your foot on the brake, right, to stop before you get to the danger, right? That is basically cancer. It will either increase your capacity to help you to overcome or bypass the problem, or it will reduce your capacity to stop you from reaching the problem before you get there.
So I
Um,
want to ask a question really quick, Danny, if I may,
Fire
just
away,
to,
yeah,
so his son was brutally murdered and shot. Then
that's right.
he ended up getting testicular cancer. And then he
Hmm.
found out that the testicular cancer was just tissue that was masking because his body was going through a biological mechanism where his body was telling him, hey, we're going to replace the son that you lost. We're going to try to speed up and give you more testosterone and etc. So he could impregnate his wife in
That's
order
right.
to recreate another human life since he
That's right.
lost his son. So, in layman's terms, for someone who's not following us so far, there's various types of cancers out there. So, a lot of people hear about leukemia and how there's no cure for leukemia, or we hear about liver cancer and etc. Then, how are those types of cancer? What does the biological mechanism looks like that's causing some of those? Because we see so many people here in the US where I live that's going through chemo and radiation only to be told that their chances of survival is very low.
So there's two very interesting cancers, right? If we start with leukemia, the way leukemia works, and leukemia is in fact not cancer at all, but I'll explain to you how it works. When you go through a period of depression, what happens is that you get holes in your bones. Okay, it's called necrosis. Okay. It's caused by depression or what we call a self-worth conflict where I'm a bad mother, I'm a bad daughter, I'm a bad employee, I'm a bad father, sister, whatever, right? I'm a bad something. And in that period where you are a bad and depressed, the bones get affected, as does the bone marrow. Now, when you pull out of that depression, those bones and the bone marrow needs to heal. Okay, so the way it basically heals the bone marrow is you get immature blasts of white blood cells, which is what we call cancer, and then immature blasts of red blood cells. Those immature blasts, they will make you tired, but they have no risk to health because it's nature's design. All it is the bone marrow healing from the damage that was done in the period that you were depressed. Um, if you if you eat a high animal protein diet and you sleep for many hours a day, you will give your body the time, space, and energy it needs to heal. Dr. Hummer never lost a single leukemia patient, and nor have I. If we skip over to liver cancer, doctors think that the liver gets affected by alcohol. Okay, now the liver does not get affected by alcohol. The liver gets affected by something called starvation. Okay, now if you look at any alcoholic, the problem with an alcoholic is they never eat. Okay, because they spend all of their time, energy, and resources on drinking, and they always skip food. So the liver, you get cirrhosis in your liver, not by drinking too much, but not because you're not eating. Okay, now liver cancer is one of the main causes of what medical doctors call metastasis. Oh, the cancer spread around your body and now it's gone to your liver. What causes liver cancer in a medical setting basically is when you start taking chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is mustard gas. And when they put that mustard gas inside your body, you start vomiting and you start loose motions, and the body does everything it can to evacuate that poison. So what happens is then there's no food going into your system because you're vomiting it all out. So in metastasis, liver cancer in a medical setting is caused by violent vomiting that's caused by chemotherapy. So there you go.
And the
In business, Genesis,
yeah.
we're taught on day one that you can never solve any problem in life by addressing the symptom of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, every in if we take Dr. Hummer's case, he had surgery. He did not have chemotherapy or radiation, as I understand. Most medical doctors don't. Okay, but and he didn't know the cause of the problem at the time. But the cause of the problem was his son getting murdered. Right. So nature is attempting to increase his capacity to help him solve the cause of the problem by increasing his testosterone and sperm levels so he can get his wife pregnant and replace the child he's just lost. By taking chemotherapy or removing the testicle, as Dr. Hammer did because he didn't know better at the time, basically you are fighting against nature's design to help you solve the cause of the problem. And the main issue that we face today is that we are unable to connect the dots between what's going on in our life and how a turbulent environment basically affects our biology. In Dr. Hummer's case, it triggered a tumor on his testicle because his son died. In a leukemia case, if you knew that basically that the immature blast of white and red blood cells was just your bone marrow repairing from
Mm-hmm.
necrosis or osteolysis that's caused by depression. Basically, all you needed to do was go and sleep and eat a high protein diet, and everybody would survive leukemia.
So I want to ask a question here because we see so many big ads and push for chemotherapy, radiation, clinical trials, and etc. But it doesn't seem like people are willing to get to the RCA, the root cause analysis of what's really taking place in a human's body. Because if we get back to, you know, old primitive ways of healing and grounding what we're eating, what we're putting into our bodies, do you think that more individuals, whether they're practicing eastern or western medicine, would have a fighting chance and surpass cancer? Because you wrote this award-winning book, terminally ill cancer is a misdiagnosis, but why don't we see that shift across the board when there's so many ways out there for people to live versus, have a death sentence?
Oh, I mean, these medical discoveries have been heavily censored, buried for now over 45 years, right? What we don't realize is that these medical discoveries are used in elite circles, but they're not made accessible to us serfs out here, right? Now, the problem we have, Genesis, is that what we don't realize is most people understand that conventional medicine is a system of symptomatic treatment, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a headache, you take a tablet, right? Or you have some inflammation, you take an anti-inflammatory. You have a fever, you take an aspirin or a Brufen or whatever, right? I mean, these
Mm-hmm.
are all systems of symptomatic treatment. What we don't realize is that most of the established alternative treatment modalities, and whether that's chiropractors or energy healers or nutritionists or
Mm-hmm.
emotional healers, are still treating systems. They're still systems of symptomatic treatment. The energy healer treats the symptoms of the energy. The nutritional healer treats the systems of acidity and alkalinity in the body, etc. Nobody's sitting there in Dr. Hummer's case, for example, and saying, "Oh, okay, your testicle is adding capacity because you just lost a child." Go and what Dr. Hummer discovered, Genesis, is that if he had indeed got his wife pregnant, then that biological program, which runs in our subconscious mind, would have switched off In the same way, it switched on automatically, right? He didn't sit there and say, "Oh, okay, I've just lost a son. Let me increase the size of my testicles so I can get a better chance of getting my wife pregnant, so I can replace the child I just lost." Right? You don't sit there and consciously think that. All of these programs run in your subconscious mind. But what he discovered is that if he had indeed reproduced and had another child, that program would have switched off because it achieved its biological purpose and its biological function. So when we understand how this works, but this information is not available out there to anybody, right? So this is I mean, doctors are taught in medical school, right? That a patient healed is a customer lost, right? I mean, you have to, at some point, you have to follow the money. And Dr. Hummer estimated that when his medical discoveries are allowed to surface, that 95% of all established healing modalities essentially will go out of business, right? And that's both conventional and alternative, because if everybody was like me and they could learn to heal themselves, then you don't need anybody else to help heal you, right? So, but that's the problem,
Yes.
right? And then you're going to lose trillions of dollars of pharmaceutical revenue, and you're going to put everybody out of business in conventional and the alternative healing space, right? So it's in everybody's interest to make sure this information never gets out. What to
And
do?
that's really sad because if we have the power to change and shape lives and heal someone, you would think that we would be willing to do that, especially if we think, oh, that could be my loved one, that could be my family member or friend. But money makes the world go round, so everyone is chasing a dollar in order to
That's right.
keep it in circulation. But I love what you're saying, and we're definitely going to have a part two because we're almost to our time commitment. But I want to give you a chance to really talk about your book. How long it took you to write your book and what you want people to grab a hold of to whenever they grab that copy of your book because knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. So this book took me 18 years to research. It took me, I think, 3 years to write. And the book is 15,000 words. Okay, so what I basically did is I wrote it, I sent it out to hundreds of people, got them to critique it, and I did that 6 times, right? So I could keep building back. Yeah, it's a short book. It's written in very plain, simple English, and it essentially has the cure for cancer in it, right? So um, that's why I mean, strip off the terminal, and cancer is a misdiagnosis, right? Because it's not a disease. It is a biological program that is there to help you survive. It's there to increase or decrease your capacity when you're in a turbulent environment. And when you understand, you can switch cancer off like a light switch. You just have to know how to do it. And I've switched cancer off. I've had lung cancer, testicular cancer, jaw cancer. I've had cancer in my arm and in my shoulder, and I've switched most of those off since I've been learning this. And when you learn to heal yourself, I essentially, Genesis, I live in a land where there is no such thing as disease. Okay. And I promise you, it is heaven on earth. Okay. When you understand how your environment basically impacts your biology and why you get a runny nose or a sore throat or a bad stomach or a cancer, it's all triggered by our external environment, and it's just nature adapting to keep us alive. We've survived for millions of years, right? And all of that without chemotherapy, right? So, um, this is the journey that I've been on for the last 20 years. This book is an introduction to these medical discoveries. It's a great place to start. It's reportedly the best, simple, easy to read introduction to Dr. Hummer's medical discoveries. And if it, I'll close on my strongest. When I started this journey, I'm a highly cynical person. I don't believe anything anybody tells me, and especially in the health space, you should never believe anything that anybody tells you, and especially not me. Okay? You should only ever believe anything when you have personal experience of understanding and using a modality to achieve a result. When you achieve a result, you build conviction. Okay. You should not have conviction in anything until you've tested it and proved it for yourself, and especially with modalities like this. So go into it skeptical, go into it with an open mind, and enjoy the journey. It's quite extraordinary. And at the end of the journey, you'll end up where I live, which is in the land where there is no such thing as disease. And it's extraordinary.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really wish I had a copy of that book because, man, I really could have helped my family members. We recently lost my husband's grandmother to liver cancer, and then 2 years ago, my cousin to leukemia, which was just very hard to see her go through that. So I just commend you on the work that you're doing and the other doctors that you partner with to just put this knowledge out there to retrain and re-educate people to really get back to holistic living and listen to their body, pay attention to their environment that they're in, pay attention to their subconscious mind, pay attention to what's triggering it. What can you do to combat those triggers? How can we be more in tune with ourselves internally as well as externally? And how can we live the life that we want to live and not the life that others would like us to live? So just hearing you in this short segment talk about these powerful, profound things is very enlightening to me because I learned a lot in just a short amount of time. And I want to ask you to give your CTA to the gemsters out there, your call to action. How can they connect with you, whether you're on social media or your website? And then where else is your book sold outside of Amazon?
So, you see my name, sorry, my screen, Danny Carroll. Hmm.
Yes.
Let's see if it doesn't disappear. Danny Carroll. So my website is danny-carroll.com. That's my home base. The book at the moment is only in two places. It's either on Amazon or it's on my website. So if for any reason you don't want to go to Amazon, you can come to my website. That's my home base. That has pretty much everything on it, and is the place where if you find this interesting, you can sign up and come to my email list. I have a free 400-page ebook, which basically is the best summary of these medical discoveries, which will explain to you leukemia and liver cancer and all of the cancers, in fact, every disease known to mankind, in a relatively easy to read format. I also have a free 1 year course of daily 6 to 7 minute MP3 lessons where you can learn the basics of this medical discoveries all for free. So if you'd like to join me, come over to my website. If not, you can pick the book up on Amazon, or you can pick it up on my website.
Thank you so much, Danny. I really appreciate you being here today with the Gemster community and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. Once again, audience, Danny's website is Danny, his first name, hyphen Carroll com, and that's where you could find all of his information and get connected with what he's doing in his community and the pipeline. And once again, terminally ill cancer is a misdiagnosis. That's the name of his book, and you can find that on Amazon as well as his website. Pick up a copy for yourself, your family members, and your friends. Knowledge is power. And once again, we want to thank you so much for sitting in on this powerful conversation with Danny Carroll and myself, Genesis Amaris Kemp. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the podcast. It's available on 40 plus platforms. You could also see the video to this recording by going to YouTube, which is at Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp. And until next time, signing out with peace, love, and lots of blessings. Remember, you are your biggest asset, and don't ever let somebody tell you who you aren't. Be who you want to be and live your life like it's golden because we only have one life to live and you want to live life spent well. You were created for a purpose on a purpose. So don't ever diminish your light for someone else to extinguish. Signing out, Genesis Amaris Kemp.